morning, everybody. We're so delighted that you're able to be here with us. This morning, I have the rare privilege of having a conversation with Superintendent Pedro Martinez from San Antonio Independent School District in Texas. He is by far one of our most progressive thinkers and doers as a superintendent. His work, not only in San Diego, but in many, many decades of support for children, has made a difference in our country in the way we look at engagement for students. He also plays a great role in supporting other superintendents in Chiefs for Change and other organizations. So our point this morning is to get to know what Superintendent Martinez has been doing and the role that STEM is playing in San Antonio, as well as giving us some guidance this morning. So I have a number of questions to be asked, and then we're just going to chat. So thank you, welcome, Superintendent Martinez. I'm just delighted to have you here. Thank you so much. Let me start by saying, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Just thank you for having me.
Delighted. We were last together in March 2020, which seems like in somebody else's lifetime, but we were together in San Antonio with the STEM learning ecosystem community of practice, more than 500, with a wonderful opportunity for us to speak. And you explained to us that more than 90% of the students who attended school in your district live in poverty. You said that parents care about their children's learning, but as you pointed out, in many cases don't know how to support their children's education. Since COVID, how has that changed?
Yes, so Jan, one of the challenges we've seen, of course, is the zip codes that we serve in our district. Just to give you some context, so over 90%, as you said, of our children live in poverty. We serve almost 70% of the poverty of the entire county, even though our enrollment is only 15%, 1/5 of the entire county. So our poverty is very dense. So when the pandemic hit last March, when you look at districts across the country, we, as a percentage of enrollment, we had to buy more devices, more hotspots for our children. But I'm very proud of the fact that we bought over 30,000 devices, distributed over 40,000 devices to our students in our district, got them hotspots, worked with the city to connect them to the internet. So one of the things that I'm proud of, Jan, is going forward, we will never have a child without a device, without access to the internet in the city of San Antonio, in the district that we serve. But with that, we also saw COVID cases that hit our zip codes in ways that were much higher than other zip codes. The death rate was 5 times higher in my zip codes than some of the more affluent zip codes in the county. And so because of that, our families were scared. So we started remote at the beginning of this school year. We've been phasing children in. COVID cases hit over 20, the positivity rate hit over 23% after the Christmas holidays. So as you can imagine, the fear that my families had. Most of my families, Jan, they're the essential workers in the community. They're the workers at the supermarkets. They're the workers at the restaurants that were able to stay open. And so it's been a challenge, but one of the things that I'm very proud of is that partnering with our parents, we've been gradually bringing in our children. We now have more than 50% of them in person. We've had COVID testing in every single school. We do testing every week. We've shown cases to our families, showing them that our cases have been very low in our schools, virtually no transmission in our schools, even though we've had cases from the community, but we've been able to quarantine, and among people that we quarantine, no transmission. So now we're really focused on really what matters now, which is academics. We are really working with the families. We have seen gaps that have grown, but we're partnering with the families now to finish the year strong and to begin strong next year.
So when we were together in March, you spoke about the need for an ecosystem mindset. And San Antonio's Alamo STEM learning ecosystem is one of the strongest in the country. It sounds like that ecosystem mindset was strong when you needed it most. But tell me a little bit about how business and industry stepped up.
So Jan, one of the things that I'm so proud of San Antonio is that as large of the city as it is, the 7th largest in the country, it is like a small town. And so it's very, the mayor and I and the county commissioners and I, we literally text each other on a regular basis. I work directly with many of the chambers. many of the business leaders and civic leaders. And so one of the things that I was very proud of in our city of San Antonio is people came together, whether it was to feed our community, whether it was to provide children. The city of San Antonio is contributing over $27 million to not only make sure that our children have access to the internet, but they actually have wired access. So the infrastructure is being built into their homes, and we're giving them routers. And so, every step of the way, our partners, our government leaders, they were there with us. And so one of the things that I'll tell you, Jen, that I think that's one of the reasons I really believe that in our district, we will not only have, we will not only serve our families well, we'll have one of the strongest recovery plans in the country, because we're not doing it by ourselves. Our nonprofit partners are with us, and so are our industry partners. And that's one of the things I would just continue to encourage my colleagues across the country is don't do this work by yourself. It's just too difficult. When you're tackling the challenges of poverty, when you're tackling the challenges of COVID, you just can't do it by yourself. I mean, my teachers are working till 10 o'clock at night, Jen, and I tell them, you can't do this by yourself. So we need to do this together, and that's how we're gonna come out of this, and we're gonna come out of this stronger.
So we all know that the ESSER money is headed in your direction, and that Clear and Away, you've written a design for that for San Antonio, and also with Chiefs for Change, you've helped to author the how schools should use funding from the American Rescue Plan. This is a one-time thing. Maybe a second would come. But we're just really concerned and interested about where STEM fits in this, because in perpetuity, in the future, the workforce that makes San Antonio so strong and that makes us as a nation safe, which we have seen, comes from STEM. It comes from the sciences, from competencies in mathematics. So what's the plan in terms of STEM in San Antonio for the use of these funds?
So Jen, one of the things that I really, and I'm encouraging all of my colleagues, is whatever initiatives we're already working in your district, this is your chance to accelerate them. This is a chance to press the gas pedal. Don't go slower, go faster. So I'll give you an example. We will now have the ability across every one of our high schools for children to get college credit, and we're aiming for at least 15 hours of college credit per student, with many of them getting 60 college credit hours. That means they're getting associate's degrees. And these are in industries like engineering, in STEM fields like cyber technology, in healthcare. And so for us, and of course, we want to align that all the way down to preschool, because again, our students are not born in STEM programs in high school, right? So this starts as early as preschool. So we're doubling down on our STEM pathways. In middle school, for example, every one of our middle schools will have multiple classes where children get high school credit, specifically in STEM classes. So in technology, in the sciences, in algebra, having algebra done by 8th grade. So I think right now, Jen, my encouragement to everybody is, these are resources. Yes, they're one time, but this is a chance for you to accelerate things that you never had the money for. The other thing we're doing, Jen, is we are doubling down on our talent for teachers. So we got our state to adopt a compensation system that we were able to begin with a federal grant about 5 years ago. In Texas, the average teacher makes about $60,000 with an average years of service of over 12 to 15 years. Our teachers here in San Antonio, we have a group of them that will be making over $100,000 this next year. And for me, it's social justice, because these are teachers that have been teaching for more than 20 years. It'll enhance their pensions. But more importantly, these are my teachers that are really carrying, they're really going to help our students. And as part of that, they're working additional instructional time. So for example, this summer, we are starting camps across all of our schools. And by the way, it's robotics. It is STEM camps. It is science clubs. It is areas that we know will excite our children, but also, again, will propel us into the programs that we're developing in the high schools.
So it sounds like that your comment about poverty and the need for social mobility is absolutely straight on and focused with your efforts for using this funding, but also creating the kind of growth scale model that in the future will be there when the funding is not.
Yeah, Jen, for us, I mean, we just, what's great is that we see the lasting effects of as we change curriculum, as we enhance instruction, those are investments that are going to continue to pay off. And so again, for us, it's just a great way to use the resources.
I think that that's absolutely the name of the game. At the National Science Foundation, they have just put out a very audacious solicitation that is asking the nation to think about what would we do to break the cycle of systemic racism in STEM. And although I hadn't thought about asking you this question prior, I think your comments about social mobility, about the use of STEM and poverty, do you have a sense about where you would go if you were asked to be a part of something like that?
Absolutely, Jan. So again, for us, and I don't want to oversimplify things, right? Because it's not that simple. But here's the reality. Our children of color, our girls, they are underrepresented when it comes to jobs in the STEM fields, whether it's technology, whether it's healthcare, whether it's engineering. And so one of the things that I'm very proud of is I have seen over the years a growing number of our students, and remember, 97% of our children we serve are children of color, but I've also seen our girls getting more into science and into engineering, into biotech. We've created schools that specialize in helping children get into these technology fields or getting into pre-med, getting into research. And for me, and by the way, we have one of the largest dual language programs in the country, because one of the needs we have is also to have our students being able to speak multiple languages, because this is an international economy. And of course, in San Antonio, our Mexican community is such a large part of our community. And so for us, we really are doubling down on culture, on identity, on language, but again, tying it back to these amazing fields, which in San Antonio, it's healthcare and technology. Those are the fastest growing fields. And one of the things that I saw, Jan, I've been here now 6 years. And one of the things I would notice, because San Antonio is a very fast growing city, and I made this observation to our civic leaders and to our chambers, that is the reason we're growing, is it because, again, we're attracting these amazing industries of STEM around healthcare and technology, but yet we're importing all the labor. So importing the labor from other cities, we're importing the labor from other states. And what does that mean for the people that are living in San Antonio? What does it mean for the students that we are educating and are growing up here? They're not getting those jobs. They're not getting access to that. And so we started changing the conversation about what is the role of industry around internships, around job shadowing. What is the role of colleges and universities? One of the things that we have said is that we want to make sure that our children are not only college ready and career ready, they got to be in college and in careers through internships, through job shadowing. That's why we're getting our children college credit. And what I love about San Antonio, we have the partnerships and the ecosystem to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think that that's really critical. So in closing here, in giving advice to our nation, to our superintendents, to the people, we have come out of a year of fear, of risk, but we have come out of it. And unfortunately, with a death toll we can't do a second time, never. But we have the light. We have the thought that we're together now, and that we'll be okay. What's your message to others who are doing the kind of work that you're doing, the teachers, to the students, the families, but most to the communities themselves?
So Jan, my message is that it's not enough to go back. It's not enough to go back to normal. We have to be better with a capital B. And better means addressing the gaps, addressing the opportunity gaps, more importantly, because we have resources. Let's leverage them to really give access and opportunity to our children. Because I'll tell you, Jan, our children are ready. Our children are ready. What's going to get them excited about school again? What's going to get them excited about, post-COVID is when they have this ability to get into robotics, to get into engineering camps, to get into science camps, to get them excited about the future. That's what we all have to work towards. And Jan, the resources we have are unprecedented. So I feel like there's no excuse. There's no excuse. A lot of work, but there's no excuse. We have resources. Let's leverage them, and let's really help our children get those opportunities that all of us wanted to have as children.
Well, thank you, Superintendent Martinez. It is clear that San Antonio and its children, its community, its families are very, very wonderfully lucky to have you at the helm. and to have the kind of vision that you have. But also, I think we're all very lucky that you do participate nationally, that Chiefs for Change does have a voice. I live in Cleveland, Ohio, so I have Eric Gordon, who is my buddy here, and have this kind of dialogue. And even just the two of you, let alone all the chiefs that are part of that, have such strength and vision. And it's our greatest hope that also what does work will have a pathway to growth and scale. And what doesn't will be not mourned and grieved over as it disappears, but provide for the opportunity of other things to fill its space for our community. And so that STEM education becomes accessible, and it is no longer thought of as having systemic racial problems and barriers. So thank you again for this. We appreciate that. And our ecosystems who will have access to this conversation and dialogue will be very excited to hear your message. Take care.
Thank you, Jan. It was my honor. Thank you.
Thank you. So let me also say that we are very keen on the fact that this is a beginning and a dialogue with other superintendents. We feel that the superintendents are stymied by the amounts of money coming in their direction, and the ones that have the Title I money are even more so. So they're finding it hard to listen now, but given August or July, when they have to have their plans and they have to have spent the money, we're going to circle back and we will be in touch with advice on what works and why, because those will be the times when these superintendents need the greatest help. Absolutely, Jen. And, and one of the things that I've been telling my colleagues is to think multi-year. I mean, really spread the resources. Yeah. We're looking at I just talked to our state commissioner. We're looking at a plan that's even 3 to 5 years. Yeah. We really want to think longer term. Right. Because you can imagine, I mean, we have preschoolers and we have 12th graders, right? And we have to serve the whole gamut. Right. Right. I think there's the other piece to this, the idea of the systemic racism in STEM is significant. And it's going to continue to hold it back and to be suspect until we have actual pathways that we can start to look at and say, well, we think we know things will change. And not that we know it, but we think it is really going to be invaluable. But that's going to require a different kind of measurement. And so it's not going to be the tests that the kids are taking. No, Jen, it's really going to be, in my opinion, getting them concrete opportunities. And I really believe it's internships. It's really job shadowing. It's having our girls being able to say, like, I have Maria Garcia, who she's in her family. She has 2 younger brothers, family that lived in poverty. She's at MIT right now, finishing her year. We got her a full ride. Wow. I check in on her because, she's she's been wanting to be an engineer since 8th grade. Yeah. And just in general, I mean, just a lot of things against her. And I think it's really getting the Maria Garcias, the opportunities out there because they have the skills, they have the ability. Right. But engineering is a man's field. It's a very right. It is. There's no question. We're part of what's called the National Science Foundation. The National Includes Alliance grant with the University of Pittsburgh. We're revising admission to college in STEM. We're taking the STEM college, pre-college programs and accrediting them with middle states. So Maria, for instance, instead of just having the SAT, the ACT and grades, the fact that she was part of robotics and all that would have given MIT the satisfaction to know that who they were getting. Yeah, and that's what she did, Jen. She was in all the extracurriculars. Yeah. That was her whole. Right. And so it's our plan that within 5 years, what we're going to do is then allow the universities, and Carnegie Mellon, Pitt, and Rutgers are already on board. So we're looking for another ecosystem to bring in. So maybe San Antonio would be a good one to bring in because you already have that pathway. No, absolutely, Jen. But I think you're right on point, Jen. If you can change the culture of the colleges, the university, they're one of the biggest barriers. They are the barrier. They are. I mean, when you start to look at the systemic racism, it isn't because we're doing a really mediocre job at third grade. It's the gatekeepers along the way, the
Yes.
influencers and the
Yes.
gatekeepers. And that's
And
why
industry-
Texas, right? Your idea of the early college and the dual credit,
Yes.
it's a beautiful thing. Texas has such depth in that.
And then Jan, the other piece is the industry partners. I mean,
Yeah.
like Accenture, getting Valero, getting these
Yeah.
engineering companies to be involved, because that's the other thing our children like, is just access to the networks, right? To the relationships.
Sure, absolutely. And they had, in business and industry, had to figure out that their way of doing this and this recruitment and their way of training and everything had to be more democratized.
Yes.
And focused, and that their investment had to pay off. And that's still a question. You know, I often think about the social impact that's needed at their level, and I think they're getting there, but I don't believe that they are there yet. I mean, I think there are some National Instruments in Texas Instruments, you know, they have Dell, that technologies. There's a different approach, but
Yes.
others haven't gotten to where they are yet.
Yeah. No, absolutely, Jan. Absolutely. Again, we have a lot of work, but
Thanks.
optimism.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you so much for everything, and give my best to everybody.